morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning, where I am the number one greatest dad. But I don't know if Layla is going to think that when we go to see her tomorrow and I pass on the cold that Angie has so graciously given to me and make it run in the family again. But number two is here, whose family is also finding the cold. What's happening?
Yeah, what's going on? I've got my mom mug today, so I've decided I don't want number two dad. I'll take number one mom. How about that?
Right.
Let's see what the wifey thinks about that.
Why compete in a position that you're never going to realistically start in, and then just change your game to a position that you can actually?
You're right. It's Trenton midfield. We're starting off very early this morning.
Yeah, that does make sense, right? It's like you're gonna just, instead of sitting behind Van Dijk all your career, just become a left back or something.
Right. Yep.
And by the way, John was with us before you hopped on. I have, I'm setting up like some of the things we're gonna talk about, and there was this. I'll show it right now. Chiesa, we were gonna talk about that, and Gordo said when you first logged in, he thought this was you. And you were just pissed first thing in the morning.
You know how you can see at the bottom, like, who's in the screen? Well, Temujin had that go. I'm saying, like, for a split second, my mind went, man, John looks pissed this morning.
That's me when someone calls out Gravenberg this season. Like, what did you say?
Sergi says we all look alike. We all look like we're dressed for a cold winter. It is kind of nippy out there. We were just talking about that before it went on air. And, John said it's getting there over there. So fall is here, people. Hang in there, which I do not normally mind fall, except when I'm sick. That's a different stuff. Ryan has got his tickets, and he is on the train. You know what that means?
First class, baby.
Except the shitty performance from Gravenberg this weekend.
It's heading for
no refunds. No refunds. Once you're on this train, there's no leave.
No refund. 90 degrees. Really, in California? Because that's the only, that's the highlight of California to me, is the fact that it does not get too obnoxious. But let's get to the news. Yes, John is upset. Chiesa looks pissed. He got a knock, so he's out, and people are freaking out, Gordo, because, here we go again. I saw a guy just losing his shit saying it's Thiago all over again because the guy is just out for a game. But are you jumping off the roof as well, or?
It's just one thing. Like, we've seen this story so many times, and here it is starting. And he's only started one game for us, and now he's got a knock. It's just like one of these things. It's just, I don't want to believe it, but you have to kind of laugh a little bit. It's like, a lot of people were saying, hey, they're pointing to his injury record. I know last year he managed to go all season without an injury. And also, like, coming off of a very difficult injury. So it looked like things were positive. But it might just be a knock, but it might also be just like, this is what we bought, right?
I was just paranoid because when they say knock, it's not always a knock. I mean, normally when they say, but we don't know this new regime. Maybe he is because he said, I don't expect him to be out long and be serious. But that usually I would take that as, because there's the international break coming. He'll be back after the international break. I don't expect him to be available for the weekend. Is that because when somebody says knock, we've heard this before, John, where they're like, oh, he got a knock. And they're like, we'll see him in March, kind of a thing, like with Thiago and Keita and stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't know enough of Chiesa except for his past record, I guess, with Juve. And if you're going to be looking at that one serious injury is kind of like the dampener with all things. But other than that, he's been relatively he's been available, especially last year where he managed to play a sizable chunk of games. And Hassan said he bought it for 10 million to be the designated backup for Mo Salah. Thankfully, that position, that forward line is something that we're kind of rich, full of players with. The fact that Jota out makes it worse, but if Jota wasn't out, which I think it was confirmed just to be like a bruise or something, which is hopefully just keeps him up for a game or two, it kind of dampens the blow. So I'm not worried, but then I completely understand why people are, given the track record of, keyword, the past regime. Arnie right now, he's very straightforward. he pretty much says it how it is. So maybe if he says like it's nothing, maybe it is really nothing, right? Maybe we're just getting worried for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, Kaz says if honest sluts start saying not cool, as Klopp would say, we know he's out for 6 months. Yeah, that's the problem right there. But I do agree that, I mean, here's the part with that. I mean, and this is probably in some ways makes it similar to Thiago Gordo, is the fact that, I mean, he doesn't have the ridiculous wages that Thiago did either, but we got him for very low and he seems to be the kind of like what John is saying, at least right now, until we see him play a lot more and kind of like carve out a spot. We were talking about on the Monday podcast, like, would he be the 10? Would he be on the wing and stuff like that? But it feels like kind of like similar to what John is saying. He's a little bit of a luxury, so it's not as big of a deal. It's a small investment in a spot that we're pretty deep in. So he's just, the cherry on top, and I personally don't like that cherry, and I just give it to Angie anyway. So no more deal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but if he's bought as the backup and he can't even go for a string of games, and that's what we need him for. I'd rather have a backup that's healthy all the time and comes in and does the job and exits than be like, all right, well, now Mo's injured, and while our backup is also injured. So it's nice that we only got him for 10, but it's one of these things that until he proves that he can go for and it could just be a knock. It could also be like Kazi is saying in the chats of like, maybe we're just trying to get him not picked for Italy so he doesn't leave and he can spend some more time with Arnie and the boys on the international break, which that'd be a smart move. But you've got to go a string of games where there's no knocks, and he's got to play consistently for me to be like, all right, yeah, I think we're just kind of overreacted because of his history. And again, yes, it's like it's probably overreacting, but it also, we haven't seen anything, so we have nothing to go off of.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, if that conspiracy theory was true, why do it now? You would use them because you kind of like expected him to play today, but probably not Saturday, or, maybe off the bench or something like that. I figured they would do that. Oh, that Champions League game, you got a knock, and he's going to be out of the Crystal Palace game, and then, like he's going to stay here kind of a deal. But yeah, I mean, I'm not losing my shit like some of these other people are. First of all, like, what the hell? Like, we didn't even see, and it's the first time. I can understand if this happened. Like, I would expect people to lose more shit more with Jota being out, because we've seen that before.
Yeah,
right? Like, he's like here for a couple of months and then gone. Nobody's saying anything like that. Kind of like went under the radar because Chiesa got injured and everybody's like, oh my God, we got another injured guy and stuff like that. But then, speaking of, there was like, which I have not seen these actually. I'm passing on Salim's stuff on Discord here, that we are potentially interested in Pulisic again as a long-term replacement for Mo. Anybody buying this?
Well, first of all, long-term replacement. I mean, yeah, I think he's past.
There's nothing coming.
Because
what Lloyd would say.
Yeah, I think he's past a long-term replacement. You would say is somewhere in the age range of like 18 to 21, and not where Pulisic it was. Pulisic 27, 26, 27. It's not a long-term replacement in my opinion.
Yeah, long-term replacement is Gravenberch age, around 22. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Pulisic, even at his best, I wouldn't say like this is at his best, right? Like, he's at best probably a second stringer for a big club. I wouldn't kind of bank on him to start week in, week out for us. And he's got quite the injury record as well. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, people like, this is when people are like, and I realize that.
Right. Remember that.
I might have the same.
Right. Remember that sequence when we won the league where I think he spun Trent and Gomez all in one move and scored against us when we lifted the league title at Anfield. Everyone was saying, oh, Christian Pulisic has arrived. He's going to be massive for Chelsea next year. And then what happened? Right? Like, he never really managed to establish his position with that club, when even like it was prime, doors were open for him because Hazard left and all that, and he still didn't get to manage, to establish his position. So listen, he's a decent player, but long term for Mo Salah as well.
Yeah.
For Mo Salah as well.
Like, bar high for the kid. I mean, that's the thing. I was never a fan of spending. At the time, I was more about the price. I didn't think it was worth that much when he went to Chelsea. because I think it was like 50, which, now 50 sounds like, what's the big deal? But back then, 50 was pretty darn high. Back in the day, where 50 was worth something. So he was like, I thought he was so expensive when he wasn't worth the risk because of the injury and stuff as well. And I didn't think he was good enough for that money. But then at the same time, in fairness to him, he has done really well in Italy. Is that because that suits him better? Gordo and Chelsea, a lot of good players have gone to Chelsea to die. Or is it just he's just not good enough and strong enough for the Premier League, and Serie A suits him better?
It's probably more of that, right? It's probably more the style of play suits him better than the Premier League. It's Premier League's rough and tumble, and he's probably was not up to snuff. And also surrounded by much better players. Like, not saying that Italy doesn't have good players, but the caliber of players as a whole, like when you take, if you'd rate a team based on all the players and took the average Premier League team has a much better starting lineup than Serie A.
Yeah, that's fair. Ryan says Pulisic is a great player, but I will look elsewhere unless we can get him for 40. And that's the thing, like the price is obviously, I'm kind of assuming because of his form in Italy and what he has done, his price would be a lot higher than like the 40 and stuff like that. Guy says he doesn't want the player, but we diminish what he has done over 2 seasons because he's American. I don't know if we diminish it because he's American. I feel like we diminish it because of where it's at. Is that fair to say, John? Because unfairly, I think, like Serie A has been like downgraded almost to, I don't know, just another league in Europe kind of a thing. Whereas, like we always talk about, back in the day, it was the league.
Yeah, and what I'm going by is the sample size that he provided when he played in the Premier League, which he had flashes of brilliance, but never could really sustain it, never really could get into a starting position in a very good Chelsea team, right? And sort of like our situation now and their situation then with Thomas Tuchel, he didn't really have any loyalty to any of the players. So whoever started there probably got it on merit. And since he didn't start, means that he probably wasn't good enough for the manager. And he's a great player, I agree. But then, like I said earlier, like he's not a Mo replacement, because putting his name to Mo is pretty insulting for me. And probably he's best where Chiesa is now, and we got Chiesa for 10 million, right? So there's way better investments that we can possibly get into, way cheaper players we could possibly get into, who can probably fill that void. Not now, fill that Mo void, not now, but in the future, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, not to, like bring him into a situation where you set him up to fail. So you're like, hey, come on in, you're Mo's replacement kind of a thing is going to make it even worse because it's an American player coming in under an American ownership. So there's already going to be that. And he's going to come in as Mo replacement. It's almost like setting the kids up to fail as well. I mean, I would not be totally against it if it was a bargain like that. I just don't see it being a bargain based on his form and stuff like that. Somebody's going to fork out the money and hope that it was just Chelsea holding him back. Chelsea being Chelsea kind of thing. But speaking of Mo, he's not going anywhere anyway. We do not need a replacement. So let's put this up over here. Mo, why don't we put this up over here? Yeah, there we go. Here we go. 231 goals and assists in the Premier League for Liverpool, same as Aguero. So you look at this list over here, Rooney's at 276. Knowing Mo and how he probably has this chart on his wall and he just crossed out like Aguero's name or something like that. Isn't this like one of those things that we talk about when it comes to Mo Gordo, where we say he values these numbers, so he would be inclined to stick around a bit more and not, go to Saudi Arabia for the money and stuff like that, because that's always going to be there for him.
Yeah, I think there is a sense of the top players, like when you've won everything, like how do you keep yourself interested is you start circling these accolades and like, this is what I'm going for this year. This is my goal as a personal thing. Yes, I've got all this, I'm trying to check these boxes with the team. But I also have these personal things that I'm going after, because he's already etched his name as one of the best strikers in the Premier League era. But for him to like start crossing off like Aguero, and I think he probably, well, if you put that up again, Thierry Henry is what, 249? He could probably He could probably be between, maybe even get Harry Kane if he has a really good season. But I would imagine him being above Thierry Henry by the end of the season. So
that's what I was going to ask you, because Rooney is at 276. That's the top. So we're talking 45. I mean, that's basically a season.
But that's Premier League games. So that we're
I mean, like rest of the season and then another season, you would think if he stays one more season in the Premier League,
he'll get that
to get there.
For sure, he'll get that in 2 seasons for sure. But I'm saying at the end of this season, he can probably already be above Thierry Henry, and you're talking about some of the best names in the Premier League era. So if you don't think that he's seen this list or he's aware of this list, then I think you're joking yourself.
I think so too, and that's the thing. Yes, says 18 more seems a lot. I don't think so. I mean,
it's goals and assists, though, right? Yeah, it's goals and assists.
So I think he would. I mean, we're talking. We're only 6 weeks in, so there's like 32 games. So 18 does not seem like a lot, because this is. If it was goals, I'd be like, oh, that's tight, kind of a thing. But he's gonna get like another 5 to 8 penalties the rest of the season by itself. So you would think that we're talking about like a 10 assist over here. But what I mean, do you think? Are we just being optimistic, John, that he has this charts, this poster on the wall over there is crossing out names?
No, he does. He does. The fact that we have games where it's just a regular league game and he takes off his shirt knowing that he's beaten some sort of record, right? Like, I think in the United game where we won 7-0, he took off his shirt because I think he broke some sort of record there. I forget, obviously. If someone knows, just please correct me, but he broke some sort of record there. So he clearly knows this. And again, like I mentioned this around a year ago when I was still on the Friday show, he's doing this from the wing, man. He's doing this from the wing, goals and assists. Like, I know wingers right now are probably more offensively minded, but probably aside from Ronaldo or maybe Mbappe, like no one has really given us the volume that Mo Salah has given us from both scoring and assisting. Like right now, like over the last 3 years or so, has probably been his best in terms of being an all-around player. And looking at this list here, I'm actually, where did the list go? I can't put it in there. Oh, there it is. I actually think he's going to surpass Kane this season. Realistically, I think that's a given. And if we manage to, swindle him to stay like 1-2 more years, easily gets past Rooney and Giggs. Easily.
And,
I mean, if he gets to Kane at the end of the season by November next year, he'll be at Rooney. What was that, Gordo?
If he gets above Harry Kane this season, we're definitely in for a trophy. I'm not gonna say which one, but that's a damn good season for him to be doing.
I mean, this is just Premier League, so if you get 28 goal contributions, I mean, I don't know. Here's another thing: like you can get one game where. Like one of those obnoxious games like 7-0, 9-0 or something like that, where he gets like 3 goals and 2 assists or something crazy like that, and you can like jump right now. But he will catch Rooney Kazi, yes. Well, I don't know Kazi's probably up all night with the baby. God knows what's in that coffee to keep him going. But yeah, I don't know about catching Rooney this season. That's 45 goals.
One point is that I would like to see this broken down in is like how many games it took them to get there, because I believe out of all these people, I feel like Mo's way at the top of the list.
Right, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you got Ryan Giggs in there, number 2. Yeah. Like he played like 2 million games to get there.
Yeah, it was like 18 seasons or something with United. Mm-hmm. So Wayne Rooney played forever. Harry Kane's been with Tottenham since he was a kid. So, he was at Chelsea and then he went to Tottenham, right? He was through the Chelsea youth system, but he was at Tottenham for a good number of years. So I would like to see Mo Salah. Like this list per game.
Of course, the funny thing about having Harry Kane over here is we talked about, him like he won't go to Germany because he wants to go to the top of this chart kind of thing, and boom, he's over there. So, right. But at the same time, he might be like, I'll just come back and get it anyway. It's only 17, but I think Mo, if he sticks around at least one more season, would get. Constantine says he would score 5 tonight. It would not matter because this is just Premier League. So you're kind of, and I think that's why it would mean more, because he probably wants to be like a Premier League legend. I mean, he already is. Yeah. But he is at the same time, like I don't know if you guys saw this because it had to do with like FC 25 or something like that, John. They were talking to like Hazard and they were asking him because it's like the conversation. And he said Mo is much better than him.
I mean, I thought that was common sense at this point. You have a guy here who was the star player of his team who went an entire year without scoring. How the fuck can you put that guy over Mo Salah? People are going to be talking about the Chelsea seasons. Mo was a bit part player there. He came into Liverpool going to be the main guy, and he's delivered every single season. You know, I call that a one-off season for Hazard, like not scoring. He did not score the entire year, like or basically on a period that like encompasses basically an entire season. So I think from then that little statistic there, not even counting impact, not even counting like Mo's impact to represent a nation, like to represent a continent like Africa, right, in the Premier League. Not even counting that, just looking at that stat in isolation just kind of ends the debate for me. So I'm surprised that this is even a talking point that Hazard himself kind of had to, you know, stamp down and go like, yeah, Mo's better.
Yeah, like they pretty much, I mean, he flat out said it. He didn't even like beat around the bush. He talked about like when Mo first came, like he said they played against him in Europe, then they were like, man, when they got him, they were like, oh, good, because he was really good kind of a deal. And he flat out said, you know, he was better than him. And I think, yeah, it would be like, to us, it's stating the obvious, but I know there are a lot of fans out there. I feel like Mo Salah, for one reason or another, is not as talked about like a legend. I know because he's like, you look at this list, he's the only active one and stuff, but he's not talked about like, you know, how Hazard was talked about and stuff like that when they were there. I don't know why that is. Is it because, Gordo, we play more of a team game, whereas Hazard at the time was a lot more like what we used to do with Coutinho? They're like, here's the ball, make something happen, either as an assist or dribble through 10 guys and score or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the setup was totally different at that Chelsea team, right? They were like, they were a lot more defensive. Like, he was the only attacking shining star really in that situation. Like, they needed the flashes of brilliance coming from the wing. And also, I think we talked about, I can't remember which morning show. It was definitely a morning show, and I'm pretty sure it was us, but like talking
one of
about
those meetings, one of those morning meetings.
But speaking about like how wingers have even evolved in the last 15 years, like their roles that they play in teams, whereas like nowadays it's much more of an attacking base, like on the floor, you know, looking to move the ball as a team unit. And back in the day, even 10 years ago, wingers were like go all the way to the line and then cross it back into the danger area, and that was Hazard. And so like even the way that like Mane, Firmino, and Mo played together was totally different than the Chelsea setup. So I think it's always like Mo and Mane, Mo and, you know, whoever.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think so too. Like he's not the kind of guy that you're like, here's the ball, do something kind of a deal. It's within the system, but he has created some goals out of nothing. I mean, there's like a lot of highlight reel about that dude and what he's done. But and Kazi says he also doesn't play. I think more of playing for a major nation, he does not play in Europe. I think even if he was, I mean, Hazard was from Belgium. I mean, I guess you can consider like the second tier when it comes to Europe of like top national teams and stuff like that. But even if he was regularly in the Euros or you saw more over there, I think he'll be talked about a lot more over there. But he's not. Kazi's like, can we talk about Rodri now? But here's what I'll ask you guys. We had the panel show last night, and that panel is getting bigger and better.
Yeah, when I opened my YouTube, like to browse some videos, I saw the panel show. There were like 8 guys. I was like, whoa. A massive panel we got there. Yeah.
So you were clearly drinking last night because there was only 6. So you were seeing.
There was only 6. Okay,
but, yeah. I mean, it was like a full panel again, and I mean, there are no City fans, so we can. But we even, you know, thanks to Gordo, we have even found a Brentford fan to represent over there.
I'm not lying. It took me. My wife will tell you 5 minutes. We walked in. I saw a guy walk across us. Like we came in perpendicular. He walked across in a Brentford shirt, and I said, "Hang on." I gave her my coffee. I ran over to him. Like, I'm really sorry to accost you so early in the morning, but I need to talk to you. So like, and then I literally, when I did it, I came back to my wife and I took a deep breath and I go, now I can enjoy myself because I already. I got my goal was to find a Brentford fan and get him on our podcast. I've done that within 5 minutes. Now I can just relax.
Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah, because he told me, like, when we were at the fan fest, he's like, hey, there's this Bradford guy. I got his info. But I honestly did not think, because there's a lot of people over there that said, like, oh, yeah, I'd be interested in stuff like that. But sometimes you hear from these people, sometimes you don't. But then, yeah, when he got the email and he answered right away and he shows up the first night, I was like, damn, this is awesome. Look,
Yeah.
Brentford fans.
Doing what he can to improve Brentford representation, right? Because we didn't know that there were Brentford fans here. So he's like, I'm going to single-handedly carry this torch.
Well, and he podcasts for Brentford. Like he does a few different Brentford podcasts, and I was like,
What
no
are you-
way! Like that's literally why I'm going to talk to you.
I mean, how big is that audience? I wonder. But yeah, he's been great too. Like this was the second week on the panel. But we were talking on the panel. I want to ask you a couple of things that I asked the guys, and one thing, because we were looking at the standings and stuff. So let's start with, because Kazi mentioned Rodri, because Rodri somehow was living in Kazi's head in that rent. But City losing points again last weekend, so back-to-back draws and stuff. We know they usually take off in the second part of the season, John. But having said that, whenever Rodri is not around, they're always in trouble. But Newcastle away is always a tough fixture. So as of now, are you like, yeah, the City team is going to keep dropping points, they're not going to be the regular City? Or do you think, because yesterday's game was just like, we could have put together a team and probably put up the same fight?
No, for me. Call it years of trauma. Call it, just the fact that you see your team basically have a finger on the trophy only for it to get snatched away at the last minute. Call it that, whatever. I am not believing it until I see it. Right, exactly. And I don't have enough faith in their biggest contender, which is Arsenal. Like, I just don't think, okay, so they lost Rodri, massive loss. But then they're still in the window where they still have the time to drop points, and they usually do at this time. It's usually during March, April, May, where they start flipping the switch, and it's like 16 in a row or some shit. When they start dropping points there, and I'll set down this marker here for future reference. When they start dropping consecutive points during that span, is when I'll be like, this might be the actual year. But then, look, like, adding to that point, like, if Arsenal are even in contention, or if we're even in contention at that point, is when I'm going to be like, okay, maybe this might be a chance. Because there can be a scenario where Arsenal aren't necessarily, are kind of shaky too. And obviously we're kind of being like our manager's new and everything, implementing a new system. We're not exactly a sure thing too. So I don't know. All I can say is, all I can definitely kind of put out there is that the league is a bit more open now, but I still have City as kind of like the favorite still. And I think the bookies have them still as the favorite. So
do they still?
Yeah.
Well, Football Flashback is not here today to confirm this. But so is it them based just on history, Gordo? Because if they swap jerseys and crest and all that kind of stuff, if you looked at the squads and how the teams are playing now, you would say Arsenal is a heavy favorite. Are we just, a lot of people think like John, is that purely based on history?
Look, if you're just going to just take this weekend and look at it, you've got Newcastle away, tough game always. You've got Leicester at home, okay? And yes, the end scoreline was 4-2, but it was 2-2 in the 93rd minute.
Yeah.
And it was Leicester City, who right now have 3 points to their name. And they were about to walk out of the Emirates with their 4th of the season. They were within minutes of doing that. So, yeah, you can argue that, the best teams get it done, and we've certainly dropped points against our fair share of, bottom dwellers. But you look at that, that's a full stack team. There's no excuses for that. That was probably Arteta's choice of starting lineups, and they struggled against. They gave up a 2-goal lead against Leicester City at home. So if you're thinking that they're the title contenders, that's the closest that we have to somebody dethroning City. It's not. It doesn't look too great, and City really just has to maintain in order to push Arsenal, because there is something too with Lego Head that we all love, is he gets very frustrated.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's like, And that's the problem, I think. In some ways, I agree to that. But part of me also says, man, they find ways to get 3 points. Because if you look at ours, we're kind of like the same way, right? Like on paper, we're kind of like playing the bottom 10 so far this season. And not really, I mean, aside from like maybe like the Brentford game was kind of like a cruise. But most games, at least to us, as we watch it, have kind of, even when you look like you're under control, you're only up by 1. So it's been like concerning and stuff. I basically woke up to that. Thanks to NyQuil, I woke up at the end of the game. But I feel like, I'm like, damn, this could be like a warning to them too, where, they almost lost points. They got to take these games more seriously. They probably went up 2-0 and were like, okay, this job done kind of a thing, and let them sneak back in. But at the same time, I don't think they still have that City's killer instinct, because I know they've struggled and they've lost some points like from the lead and stuff in the past recently too. But especially when they were rolling, let's face it, once they were up, we were like, okay, this is over. Like we hung on there to see if they're going to lose points. But once they score 1, especially 2, they just keep pressing the foot down and just like choke you to death. And then, get the 3-4 and stuff like that. So that's probably like the only thing that kind of like worries me about Arsenal in some ways. But like, this is just fandom too, right? Like when they get the 3 points like that, we're like, oh, they're finding ways to get 3 points. When we get 3 points like that, we're like, I don't know, we're just eking it in. So it's going to happen all the time kind of thing. So it really depends on where you stand. The other team we talked about is Chelsea. How seriously are we taking Chelsea right now? I mean, Jamie on the show yesterday was talking about, similar to us, that they've had a favorable schedule, but in some ways they've made the most of it. So is it still a work in progress that will start to kind of like collapse as they play better teams, John? Or is he finally figuring something out a lot faster than Pochettino did?
Well, there was already kind of a foundation that was set there with these group of players, because I believe before Poch was sacked,
they bought another like 15 of them. So
right, exactly. And before he was sacked, they were kind of getting the results anyway. Like, so even like, I'm not discounting what Maresca's done, because obviously it's kind of hard to get in here with such a difficult situation, right? And with things going on behind the scenes and all that, and all these players and having like a billion goalkeepers and stuff like that, it's not exactly an easy situation to work on. And he kind of had a pretty crap preseason as well. So immediately the pressure was on. And listen, like as you mentioned, the previous show team, you can only play who's in front of you, and they could have easily drawn or lost those games. And by all accounts, they have a talented squad. And, with Jackson and everything, and obviously Cole Palmer and all that, and Nkunku and all those guys, it's just a matter of getting them to gel. And regardless of who they're facing, they're getting the results, and they're getting them rather convincingly. So no matter which way you put it, like obviously maybe league title might be a stretch, but I think any Chelsea fan would take just top 4 right now, all day long, and then build from there. So I'm actually on the Chelsea train. I think they are kind of legit. I wouldn't say league contenders, not on the same stratosphere as Arsenal or City, or maybe even us. I say maybe here, but then probably a team that if we're not ready, they'll catch us with our pants down.
Yeah, I mean, they have the talent, right? So they can kind of like turn it on and get stuff. Even if they're not playing a great game that day, they have people who can turn the game around.
Let me actually use this analogy, Tim, before you go to Gordo. If we played this team right now that's gelled in the cup final last year, we would have gotten smoked 4-1 or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's, I mean, it's probably because they're kind of like playing better together. I still doubt them. I think their midfield's gotten better. Like Galley's saying, I think they're kind of like, like playing better. But I just feel like defensively, they're not there yet. But a top 4 contender makes sense to me, Gordo, just because, I mean, if you're automatically throwing us in there and there's that top 3, that only leaves one spot. United is nowhere near that, so it only like really leaves Spurs and Villa in there to battle. Are they better than those two, for example, right now?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, look, I think out of anyone in the league, we're probably, and maybe Leicester with their title win, although that was a pretty good team. But out of all the teams in the league, we're the ones that can sympathize with this Chelsea team the most. I mean, SAS. It doesn't matter if it's chaotic. If you put 4 in the back of the net every single game, you're going to win some games and you're going to challenge for the top 4. I mean, that year we took City to almost the end, with the Chelsea slip. Obviously, nobody likes to bring that up, but that season, you could argue our defense and midfield were shit too, and we just survived off of scoring more goals than the other team. And if Chelsea can consistently do that, then they're definitely top 4 contenders.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's not a lot to battle, and they have the talent. The only thing is, honestly, I would almost guarantee them as a top 4 if they didn't have Europe at all. Because then, like, what do you do there? Especially as things get interesting. I know it's the Conference League and stuff, but you do play against some decent teams here and there. Because you got to keep Palmer. I think, they go as far as, like, Palmer takes them. So if he's out for some reason, or you can't rotate enough and stuff like that, like, I would not put him in the Conference League games at all and just use them just for the Premier League. I just would not risk it.
Does winning the Conference League, what does it get you? Does it get you a Champions League spot? Surely not, right? Surely not.
I don't think so. Europa does. I don't think
Europa does, right?
Because West Ham didn't go to the Champions League.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot West Ham.
What do you get to go to?
Gold chocolate coins. You get a whole little one of those little fishnet baskets of gold chocolate coins. Congratulations.
Yeah, if we got gold coins, listen, play the kids. Play the kids.
So it gets you in Europa, which
it gets you in
like,
Europa.
Okay. Yeah. It's
Woohoo.
Like, you can't go to the main dance, but there's another party over here. You get to go there. Kelly says, listen, if we lose to Chelsea, everyone will say they're a legit team. And I think we played them. That kind of worries me about that game. I think we played them right after the international.
Right. I'm legit worried about that game.
That worries me just because of where it's at, right after the international break thing. I don't know if that's still a thing. So we're gonna, I guess, see that as we go.
Forest and home. I'm gonna say it's still a thing. Forest.
Yeah, it's still a thing. It's still a thing. Forest.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
You can take the man out, but you can't take out the idea.
Let's talk about today. Speaking of games over here, we'll obviously be here for the pre-match. Chiesa himself will be hosting over here down there in the pre-game. And obviously, we were kind of expecting Chiesa to be out there. Hopefully Nunez is fine so that, because that would have probably been a conversation and stuff like that. But based on who's not there, what was that?
Is he okay to play, Nunez?
I didn't hear otherwise, so I assume so. I did not hear otherwise because he was just ill, wasn't he? He wasn't like he had the sniffles like me. So take some Dayquil and get your ass out there. So Jota isn't that. So
is he okay mentally or physically? I think are two very different questions.
That is true. I legit felt bad. Tim, you and Matush talked about it in the Monday show about the FIFA thing.
Yeah, he was like,
I'm on the bet for like 5 or 7 games. I was like, damn.
Wow.
Like I know I make fun of Darwin, but I legit felt bad for him there.
But again, it was just like, bro, this is just like it's just for ads, It's like you're just talking.
And
like,
I love how he was
calm down. A lot of people are gonna see this, dude. Like, relax. Like,
I love how he was talking to Jota as well, as if he literally works for E. For E.
Yeah. Come on, dude. Did you write this?
Yeah, I don't know if he thought it was like a candid camera thing or something like that, but yeah, I kind of like, we were watching with AJ, and we were like, oh, because it was kind of like a little kid who doesn't get picked to play. He's like, I never get to play.
It's just one of those things. There's so many people on the fence. I'm one of them, still on the fence about Nunez, and like, this is like you're just like a petulant child that like. Come on, you're getting frustrated. Like you have such a fragile existence. Like here it is, right here. Like it's a stupid video game, and you're like.
To be fair, Gordo, if you follow the NBA as much as I do, every single NBA player bitches about their 2K rating each year, no matter how established they are. I watched Klay Thompson after winning a championship championship, go after like 2K's social host directly on social media because his rating was too low. And this is after you won a ring, bro. Like, what is going on?
I think it's interesting how seriously they take it. And we were like, I was for the first time, like I was like looking at some stuff like in terms of the cars and stuff. And Angie, like we were talking with Angie, and Angie came up with this idea, which they don't have, but more of a fluctuating thing. The fact that it doesn't change for a year, I think they're like, God damn it, like my speed is only at like 68. And entire year to make that, you get those informed cars and crap like that. But like a fluctuating one would be a nice concept, John, where it changes almost like with the squad updates and stuff. where the card changes itself regularly.
You mean the rating?
Yes.
But I think that's. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, bad. Go.
I feel like that's more frustrating for us as actual players of the game, because I've been in that situation too, where you pick a player who's like on a hot streak, they've had like a great season, but they've still got their like preseason rating, and it's like it doesn't match up, and the actual like character in the game cannot do what the real person has been shown he could do. It's like he's better than this.
Yeah, I guess you would come. Yeah, right. He's like, come on now, you guys didn't raise the speed yet and stuff, and who the hell is going to do that? But it would make it more interesting, Jack.
For the record, though, I think Nunez's rating is just on point. I think it's an 82, right?
I just bought Nunez, so I will let you know how it goes, because I don't know about real Premier League, but I think this game, still trying to figure out the FC25 compared to the FC24, which is the same game, but they kind of tweaked it a little bit, so you got to kind of adjust. I feel like he has the strength and speed that you kind of needs in a forwards in this game. So I think he's a good combination. Yeah, he's only 82 or something, but his strong points are kind of like what you need.
Physical, yeah.
So I'll let you guys know. I just bought him for dirt cheap.
And you can hold his run too. That's you can hold his run. Like you can decide when he goes, which
that's the kind of realism we want in the game. Where you're like,
what if that was the trait? Is like, because I thought it was hilarious when they added Sterling's dinosaur run as like you can choose your player to run like Sterling, and I was like, this is brilliant. What if they added a trait that was just like always goes too fast? And so
I'm looking at Darwin's card right now. I think it's pretty on point, honestly. I think they got it right.
Hold on. Now we're gonna have to. Okay, what are we at?
Composure is way too high, though. I know I'm gonna get called out for hating, but
we see him today. Yeah, so we're having way too much fun. So Saido comes in and goes back to business over here. So Mosai needs to start scoring goals. So does he play today? Does Nunez play today? Do you guys expect a full blown rotation, or like is it gonna be a West Ham like rotation, or is it gonna be an AC Milan type rotation?
AC Milan. I think there's one constant here, and I love that this is a constant. Ryan Gravenberch plays. That is my constant right here.
When are you going to arrest this dude?
I don't know.
Now he plays for Netherlands too. He was over there just carrying the water bottles. Now he's playing there too.
Like it's mixed for me because I'm really happy. I'm really happy that he's reached this point. Yeah, that we can't drop him or risk like kind of a drop in play. But then at the same time, like I keep mentioning, long term it might not be good for us because we might lose him to an injury. So when do we drop him? I don't think we drop him until the international break comes, man. Honestly, and to be fair, he's 22. Like put up your boots and get out there, do a midfield job, I guess. But then obviously the flip side is like he can just get injured anytime. To answer your question though, I want to see Jones in that 10 role. In that 10 role. Yeah. I want Szoboszlai to get some sort of rest to kind of get his mind straight and everything. Obviously that miss, granted, and let me actually bring this up for you guys. Are we being a bit too harsh on him for that miss last weekend? Like clean contact, right? But then the keeper just so happens to be there.
It's unlucky.
Yeah. Gordo, what about you? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's what we do, right? We've chosen a player. I mean, we do it to Nunez too, with when he misses something that like this in a similar situation Mo would miss, and you'd be like, But the difference in that, and Kazi has said this so many times, is like Salah has given us everything, and so you can give them the benefit of the doubt. When someone constantly is underperforming in everyone's opinion, and then they make that miss, it's like, well, this was your opportunity. So it's like frustrating. And so it just like compounds. Whereas like if you've got all those amazing highlight reels in the bank, you're allowed to miss one or two of those and be like, all right, well, at least you got there. Good job. We'll get one next time. With Szoboszlai, it's like maybe this was the only chance you were going to get to score, and it was perfect, and all you had to do was choose a side and put it in the back of the net. So I think it does have a lot to do with like the player and the positioning and what they've done in the past. So we could probably be a little bit unfair to him, but he's also got to earn us being lenient.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, Sorzit says not harsh at all. If it were Nunez, we go ape shit. We
Well,
would,
that's
because it'd be
that's what
like,
I'm saying.
yeah, he would like be like, oh, par for the course kind of thing. My thing is, I was more frustrated. Well, obviously because of the miss, like that goal would have really helped. But more than that, I feel like that's what he needs. He needs to have a couple of those go in, whether it's just like a tap in like that one or whatever, to help him get out of his funk. Because I just still see, we were talking about this on the Monday night podcast, that like he is. I feel like he's just like overly frustrated. His face as he's coming out tells me he knows, and the more he kind of knows and works at it, the worse it's getting in terms of like his form. He's like getting more and more frustrated.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I mean, Gally says Jones, Nunez, and Gomez in, because we talked about this too. Like Gomez coming in at the end of the game is a sign maybe that Gomez will be the left back. But then again, it is a home game where we're expected to dominate, and we might probably use the wings more. And obviously, you're not going to get Gomez as far going on the left, and like because he has to take it to the right to cross and stuff. Right. So that's the only thing that worries me about that. But in some ways, this is a good game for him to play, get a goal and stuff like that, hopefully, and kind of get out of that funk. But I agree, I don't see him playing either, because this midfield has to freaking rest at some point.
Like that too. If a player's not going to work, he's just not going to work. Because we've similarly done this with Nunez as well. Is like you give him these opportunities, like this is the best opportunity for you to score, like have a good game, and then he goes out and has a bad game, and like you can only do that so many times before it's like, all right, you're on the bench, sorry, dude. So you've really got to tailor that, because if you keep trying to push him like a square peg in a round hole, it's not going to work. So, and the more and more opportunities he gets, like if Szoboszlai starts, yes, great opportunity for him to have a good game. We're at home. We can do some real damage here through the midfield. It seems like that's the way that Slot likes to operate. So he's going to get on the ball a lot, and he doesn't have a good game. Then it perpetuates the anger.
I mean, like we were saying, we've been saying this for a while. Like the best thing going for him right now is the fact that Harvey is injured. But I'm sure, like he's walking past the training room. Harvey's getting closer and closer. He's like, mother. So it's just like, I really got to start doing something before I kind of like use it. Yes, great opportunity for Ox. Where is Ox? Is he still in Besiktas? I can't remember. I don't really feel like every left or not. But
what a good comparison, though.
Yeah, it is becoming Ox, right? Sadly, it is.
When is Harvey scheduled to come back? Does anyone know like the length? Is it like season?
At the time it was 6 weeks. Like at the time when it first happened, it was 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think we're that far yet. That was since November. So
because my thing with Szoboszlai is, I know this was talked about a few months ago, and for some reason it kind of irked me for some reason, that if we get a defensive midfielder or a good hybrid midfield, like let's say a Zubimendi, if we got him, it's Gravenberch who would be replaced in the lineup. Like right now, if we get let's say we get Zubimendi on January, right? I think we move McAllister up.
Oh yes,
and partner Zubimendi with Gravenberch. I don't know.
Well, I really do feel like McAllister would be like right now, you cannot move him because that partnership is phenomenal. We also don't really have a good replacement for that. But I do feel like if you get somebody solid that can do McAllister's role in that pivot, then he goes forward, and then we see a McAllister that just lights the Premier League on fire, in my opinion.
See, I still think McAllister is better facing the goal than. That's been like Szoboszlai's, I think, biggest issue is he's not as used to receiving the ball with the back to the goal and stuff like that. Whereas I think that's why McAllister, I think this suits him better. And Gravenberch has kind of like saved us the money kind of an ordeal, even though I would love to have that rotations because, like I say, you can't play these two guys over and over again. And I talked about like how I feel like Endo does not fit the scheme, who we might see today, by the way. And then people will be like, oh, see how we get people literally. Thanks, John, by the way. The clip you posted literally 4 or 5 months ago in the preseason, like somebody literally commented on it after the West Ham game. So like, see, and I'm like, you got to be freaking shitting me. Like, but I still doesn't like he just does not fit the system. But he's a good squad piece. But we might actually see him today. But early predictions, I will actually be doing a watch along as a guest, representing, if you will, American Scouser TV on the Sideline Football Show. So if you, I hate it. I honestly, this is the first like Liverpool watch along I will do as well. Because I mean, Gorda saw it's like that United game was an easy one. It ended up being an easy one, but I don't know. Like it almost feels like they need me. I really need to focus. They don't give a fuck that I'm not watching or anything. But I feel like I gotta focus. So even when the game was 0-0 and stuff like that, like people are talking to me and like you're responding, but I'm like, I can't focus, and they really need me over there. So it should be interesting. So if you want to tune in for that, the Sideline Football Show during the game. But then I will be there for the post-match. John is doing the pre-match. John, predictions. Ryan is not doing predictions anymore, except that you will be on the gravy train.
First class, baby.
I like how Ryan is making it sound like you're the one jumping on, whereas he's the one like running behind the train to get on there. But
I was on that train even before it was working, Ryan. Like I was there. Like
he put it together.
He was the one guy with like, it's gonna start any day now.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, John, it's gonna start soon.
All aboard!
Yeah,
I bought a ticket. I'm staying put.
Yeah, bought a ticket. Predictions. Does this include lineup predictions?
I mean, hey, you do you, man. I don't restrict your predictions.
It's Allison's birthday today, so I think he plays, and it's the Champions League. Allison, should we do Trent or do we do Bradley? Like I feel like I'll still go Trent. Trent, Kwanzaa, Big Verge. Tim's gonna hate me for this, but I'll say Simicast.
No, I think you're right. I mean, because of the game, normally I would agree with Gally that Gomez is going to be there because we kind of like saw him. But the more I thought about it afterwards, just because of the type of game I expect and we expect, Costas is probably better suited for it.
Yeah, I like that cross. I like that set piece delivery from Costas. So I'm having him there. Midfield, Gravenberch still plays. I think with McAllister still. I think he goes the stubborn route and still goes with the regular double pivot. No, I did not, Sergi. That was just Szoboszlai.
Not all of them, but most of them, yeah.
Most of them, yeah. Namely Szoboszlai. Right wing, I think we have no choice but to start Salah. Salah, Jones, Gakpo, and Nunez.
Okay.
Yeah, and, sorry. My prediction is a special.
My special 3-1. That's what Gally.
Is there another special? Is there
the slot special?
I've started the slot special in 2-0. We just introducing to the menu. We're not sure yet, but testing it out.
It's off and on right now. Yeah. Well, I said 4-0 for Wolves. I said it'd be a cakewalk, and it was. It's not fun. It wasn't a fun game at all. So I should just shut up about predictions. Also, why I don't like to play fantasy, which I'm already being proven is true.
Yeah, let's calm down the optimism when these score lines when we predict, for God's sakes. But what are you going with?
I'll say 1-0 Liverpool.
Okay, that's too stressful for me. Honestly, I would not be. I mean, you get 3 points from this. It puts you in the driver's seats. And it's like, like a good ordeal, get the 6 points against the Italian teams kind of a deal. Because you do have some tougher games, but you have a couple of like semi-easier games on paper kind of thing at the same time. This is probably the easiest one, though, you would think, right? When you look at the fixtures, you would think you would put this as 3 points. So that's why it would be disappointing if it didn't get the 3. But it's just like with this new format, it's like, meh.
You definitely got to win your home games. You know, because like one of our home games is Leverkusen, which is that's going to be a difficult one. So like you got to win the easy home games. And what did they say? Like they're predicting like 15-16 automatically gets you in. So you need 5 wins. So let's get 2 on the bounce, and then you can. It's not so stressful at the end. I hate in the Champions League. I know this year is different in the way the formatting, but like I hate going into that last game like needing a win. It's the most even if it's an easy team, like it's so nerve-wracking.
That was one of the things I thought, like when Arsenal won yesterday, I was like, that's not good because you don't want them to be able to. You don't want the other teams getting so relaxed. City is because they're got a shitty, easy schedule again, but where they can like rotate at will kind of a thing while you have, like you're saying, Gally, must-win games where you have to play people and stuff like that. But in an ideal world, you kind of put it in the bag and then be like, roll the dice and see what happens, especially as we get into like November and December and stuff.
Yeah, because that Arsenal game was a pot 1 game. That was a PSG. at home.
Yeah.
So they got 3 points from one of their toughest games of the campaign. So
I
big
love
win.
how our Premier League schedule ramps up as October goes on. So does our Champions League schedule.
Yes.
Like this is where it starts. I can't I'm kind of looking forward to it, but not because I'm scared. So.
If you feel like they win today and then they go to the weekend and they collect another 3 points, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but that's, for beginning of October, I think we've set ourselves with a great base. The team is known, like they know the style, they know who we are, the identity.
Yeah.
I think everyone's been with each other long enough, and I think there's already a great foundation of points that goes along. I think it sets us off well. I know still we don't have maybe the rotation that we'd all be dying for with the lack of signings over the summer, but I think 6-7 games ago, we'd love to be in this position, right? We collected
exactly. And I think
I'm still scared though. I'm still scared.
Yeah, I'm not sold yet. I'm not like on the front of the train, but it's kind of like there are a lot of things that are good to see. For us to be able to carry this on, you will need 1 or 2 names off top to be in real good form. I feel like we have Diaz there right now. He's gonna need somebody who regularly shines. It feels like right now, like one game, like Jota, he's really good today and stuff like that. You just need somebody who's kind of on a roll, especially like in October, November. I think that will carry you over, and that's when I'll be a believer. And that guy's going to be Nunez, people, and that's going to be an informed card coming for Nunez in no time. That's what I'm betting on. But do tune in for the pre-match, hosted by Chiesa lookalike John over here, and then
it was a tiny thumbnail. Okay, I'm sorry.
He seems like a happy guy. To be fair, I aspire to be like Chiesa. He looks always so happy, bro.
Yeah, that was like the one image. That was the one image of him, like.
Right.
That's his gargoyle look. Like he could go on top of any cathedral in Gothic Europe and you wouldn't even notice.
That comment he made when he saw Szoboszlai's card, he said "Mamma Mia," right? Like that's me whenever I see Szoboszlai play right now. Mamma Mia.
Oh man, you guys are horrible. You guys are. I really think at least Nunez. I know Szoboszlai is going to play to get off the funk, but I'm kind of like still a believer in Szoboszlai over here. But I think
for sure. That's
why
funny.
It's becoming a more and more like a great opportunity for Ox kind of bullshit because I was the only one left on that train. I was like, there's nobody else here. So let's hope we don't end the same way. But yes, tune in right after the lineups come out. John will be here with a bunch of contributors, and I will be on the live watch along with the Sideline Football Show, and then I'll be here for the post match. I think with Brian. Weekday games are weird. People have jobs and shit. It's ridiculous. But yes, do tune in then. And until then, have a great day. We'll be back in 3 hours or so. So we'll see you guys then.